Hi, we're here with Cindy Kamler, the director of Eastern Sierra Wildlife Care, and we're here checking out the whole operations they have out here, and we're kind of trying to inform the community on what they do here and how it's a benefit to this community. So what exactly are the goings-on that go on every day here?
Well, I'll try to be brief. We take care of injured and orphaned wildlife. So wildlife rehabilitation is the big term, but and basically our job is to bring that animal back to a place where it can go back and be wild again.
Okay.
So that's just the driving force behind the whole thing.
That's really awesome to hear. And how long usually are animals here for in care?
Okay, there's really no really simple answer. For instance, let's say a baby great horned owl comes in at a week or two old. He has got to probably a couple months at least before he's full grown, and then he has to learn to hunt and fly, practice his flying skills. So it could take 3 months maybe for him. A baby hummingbird grows really fast and matures really fast. So we might have to feed him every 20 minutes for the first 2 weeks, but then they'll start learning to feed themselves and out of a syringe and hummingbird feeders, and they fly almost immediately once they start feeding, and give them another week or two, and then they're ready to go. So
wow, that's
those
awesome.
are just healthy animals. Then we have injuries, and sometimes they take a long time to heal.
Oh, okay. And how do you get these animals here? Do people call you, or do you go out and search for it, or?
Well, we have a lot of different ways, actually. For the most part, the largest number are people who call us and report it or find the animal and have it in their possession and want to bring it to us, or sometimes we will go out and pick it up from them, depending where they are. We work with all the public agencies, the sheriff and the police department and Fish and Game and BLM and pet stores and veterinarians and anybody that might be approached saying, somebody says, oh, I saw this or I saw that, we need help. And we sometimes have to go out on rescues. So sometimes we'll get a call if somebody isn't about to go out and pick up that golden eagle that's injured, but they'll call us, and then we will head out there with the crew and the nets and gloves and catch the bird, hopefully, and bring it in for care.
Okay. And then who started all this, and how did it get started?
Well, I'm responsible.
Okay.
I moved here in 1995, a long time ago now, and I was living in the Bay Area, in San Francisco Bay Area, and I was a wildlife rehabber at a place called Wild Care in Marin. And I moved here to have a simple life, and but I thought, well, if there was an animal that came my way, I would help it. Well, it started out with a couple animals here and a couple animals there, and then it sort of grew from there.
Okay. And it was kind of working at your own house at one time?
Yeah, my little trailer and so on, and mostly just me, and then it kind of grew. And first of all, we had to go and get permits and all that official things. So we were permitted by both Fish and Wildlife, both state and federal Fish and Wildlife have to have special permits, and get more help, and then get money to pay for everything, because my pocketbook wasn't that big anymore. So we've just grown and grown and grown. So from maybe an average for the first 4 or 5 years of maybe 30 or 40 animals a year, it's more like 400 animals or more a year.
Wow. And that's really great to hear that especially from the community, because where we live, it's a very unique place.
It is.
And we have so many different types of wildlife, and we don't want to see it go anywhere. We want to keep it where it's at.
That's good to hear. No, I think most people feel the same way, and it makes it very different from a lot of other places where they rehab, because our wildlife is not as thick as it is in some areas. It's spread out, and we often even know sometimes when we get a bird or we have a baby out of a nest, we even know, okay, we know where that nest is, or we know where that pair of golden eagles hang out or something. We have some idea about the individuals. We do cover a lot of territory, because the closest place from here is Tahoe or down in San Bernardino. So
wow, that's a lot.
we get calls from as far north as maybe Topaz, Yosemite. over to Tonopah and Fish Lake Valley, Deep Springs, down to Death Valley, Olancha, and all the way back up the valley.
And you can bring wildlife from Death Valley or up all the way up by Topaz, and you could bring it here, and it'd be fine.
That's the only place you can bring it, really, unless you want to go somewhere else, even farther away. So yes. When we release them, for the most part, they will go back where they came from.
And how can many in the community prevent many things like this from happening, or what do they do when they find an injured animal?
Okay, well, those are sort of two different questions. So let's talk about if they find an animal. If they can, if it's safe and they're comfortable doing it, to pick it up, put gloves on if they're necessary, if it's anything that has teeth or claws or sharp claws like on a bird of prey. Get it in a small container or a cardboard box is great, with a padding in it. Put them somewhere warm, dark, and quiet, and call us.
Okay.
That's the best thing they can do. One of the things, probably, I'll just say, and then I'll let her go on with that, but probably the single greatest cause of injury that we see in wildlife is automobiles. And we're not going to stop driving, but we can try to encourage people to be alert and aware. We had a golden eagle just about 2 weeks ago that was hit by a car on 395. I mean, a golden eagle stands about 3 feet high at least. It's a big, big bird, and you would think hopefully somebody would see that bird and avoid hitting it, hopefully. But anyway.
And definitely, since a lot of the areas we're very slow paced around here, and it's not traffic jam everywhere. We have a lot of open space, and we can see everything, which is good around here. So
yes, we can. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And we'll have Kelly. Okay, and we're here with Kelly Barr. She's the assistant director here at Eastern Sierra Wildlife Care, and we kind of want to find out, how did you find out about the Eastern Sierra Wildlife Care, and how did you get affiliated with that?
Well, I started out as a volunteer, so that was about 4 years ago. I was in one of the pet stores, and there was a little flyer out there on the counter that mentioned the volunteer orientation, and so I decided to check it out. I came to the orientation, and then I started the training, and pretty soon started volunteering, and then before you know it, I was working here.
That's awesome. And have you always had a really strong interest in wildlife and doing things like you're doing? Or
I've always had a great love of animals. I wouldn't say that I knew much about this topic, about wildlife rehabilitation, but I certainly do now, and yeah.
That's awesome. And we kind of want to discuss what can you do to prevent these animals from getting injured and things of that nature.
Well, one of the things that I'll bring up, which is really relevant this time of year, is animals, especially small mammals, coming into your home and your garden. And oftentimes there's conflict. People don't want those animals eating their gardens or living under their homes. And this time of year it's the time when animals make nests and have babies. So they want to come into your safe home underneath it, and they want to, build a nest and have babies. The other thing is we're in a drought. And so this year we're more apt to have animals come into our spaces because we often have food laying around. We've got bird seed, and we've got pet food, and we've got our gardens growing. So one of the things we like to encourage people to do is to contact us if they're having problems with animals before they use lethal means of removing those animals. And so that's kind of the number one thing, is just preventing them from getting into or living in and around your house and your garden so that they don't get injured.
Okay, and we kind of touched upon if we find an injured animal, what to do. But what if they're not injured and they're just kind of, having babies under your house, or for example, or anything? What should we do in that situation?
Well, one thing that you can do if you're not comfortable leaving them there. So in the ideal world, you would leave them there, let them raise their babies, and then they would leave, and then you could block up the hole. Okay. If you're not comfortable doing that and you feel like you've got to get them out now, you can contact us. That would be a good thing to do. We've got all kinds of ideas, things that you can do to exclude them, things that you can do to get them to relocate themselves. And so that's what we would recommend.
Okay, and we're going to take you through a tour of kind of the operations they got going on here. So
yes, what we're going to look at first are what we call our education animals, and as we said at the beginning of this conversation, our job is to get wild animals back out in the wild where they belong, healthy and able to take care of themselves. But that doesn't always happen. And probably over 50% of the animals come in, die, or have to be euthanized because their injuries are too severe or whatever may happen to them. Our regulations don't permit us to just keep every disabled wild animal for the rest of their lives here. So we need to get special permits to keep an education animal. And they have to work. They have to go to schools and other places and do programs and to educate the public about wildlife, about the individual species, and also that's one of the opportunities we have to tell people about things they can do to avoid problems.
Oh, okay. And what do we got going on here?
Well, we have Razzle the Raven.
Oh, okay.
And she's a girl, as you can see. Razzle is the girl, and she loves her education programs. We were at Elm Street, third grade this morning to 2 classes, and when she was about 2 weeks old, she fell out of a nest, and she landed on the sidewalk and broke her left wing. She was naked. She just had little pin feathers poking through the skin. She was very, very young. And so we couldn't get her back to her parents, which was what we would have done if she wasn't injured. But we had to treat the wing and then also raise her. And unfortunately, the fracture is very close to the joint, and so there isn't enough flexibility for her to fly.
Oh, so she's always here because she's educational.
She cannot fly. She cannot be released. She wouldn't be able to survive. And so she's a special permit to keep. And we talked to people about ravens, and also in this case it was a relatively natural accident. The parents might have been first-time parents and didn't do a very good job building their nest, and it collapsed, and that's how she fell on the ground. We're not sure. But we can meet a couple of red-tailed hawks over here, and there's a couple of things we can see that is directly responsible, people are responsible for, more directly.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
So, these are both red-tailed hawks. The one on the left is Bullet, and on the right is Spirit. Bullet, as you might guess, was shot illegally. He was probably about 7 months old, and so he'd been taking care of himself for about maybe since he was about 3 months old, and so he'd been taking care of himself, but somebody with an air rifle or pellet gun thought it would be interesting, I guess, to target a bird of prey, and his fracture was in the humerus. It did not heal quite well enough. He can fly a little bit, but not well enough to survive. A bird of prey, all birds really have to be able to fly to support themselves. They have to find food, and these guys have to catch food. Spirit is about the same age, so they're both 4, and Russell is 4 right now too. Spirit was about the same age, and she was down in Lone Pine, and she'd also been taking care of herself for quite a few months, and she was found on the ground near some power poles, and she was electrocuted.
Wow.
So that's another thing that happens. Not people, but the power companies have poles that have not been updated to protect raptors, which is what the goal is, and so they do get electrocuted. And in many cases, that means death, either directly or the electricity passes through the body in different parts, and that tissue just dies and eventually will just rot away, and they have to be euthanized. So her case, the nerves are damaged in her right wing, but the wing is intact. The feathers are shortened and broken because with the lack of control over that wing,
so they can't really grow back as well.
Well, the feathers will grow back, but that wing doesn't always go where she wants it to go.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes she steps on it, sometimes it catches in the cage, and sometimes she steps on it and it gets broken. Sometimes she'll lose her balance and fall and break a feather or something like that. So we also trim them just to keep that down.
And how long are their lifespan usually?
Well, in the wild, I don't know really for sure, but I would guess 6-8 years for most predators. It's hard being a predator, and it's the hardest way to survive. In captivity, probably 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Could be. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, you want to check out some? Do you have any more? Or?
We really
These are
don't
just-
have much more. As I was saying before,
Oh, yeah.
we were just in our quietest period,
Oh, okay.
right before the storm, when and we're having an early spring.
Oh, yeah.
So the birds and a lot of the other animals think that it's time to have their babies,
Oh, yeah.
and so baby season gets to be really, really busy for us. That's probably 80% of the animals in a year come in between, say, May and August.
Oh, okay.
And that it happens for a lot of reasons. We get some adults that are injured, but the babies' nests blow down. They get cut down by mistake. A cat or gets into a nest of baby rabbits, or a dog does. They dig them up. Parents get killed. Mama raccoon gets run over. We had baby raccoons last year. Came from Wilkerson. They were living under somebody's house. They were pretty little, and we don't know for sure, but they started wandering one at a time. They were very wobbly and not really very mobile, but they were hungry, and they started wandering around the neighborhood looking for Mom one at a time. And so the good chances were Mom, either if she didn't get hit by a car, maybe possibly a dog.
Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit about fishing line and how fishing line can harm wildlife, and what are the appropriate ways to dispose of it, and a little about what goes on with these posters. You may have seen them around.
Okay, so one of the things that we encounter, we started encountering it more frequently, are animals that come in, primarily birds, water birds that have fishing line tangled up. They basically have it tangled around their feet and their legs. Oftentimes they will have the fishing line and the hook into their mouths. What happens is they get, there's fishing line along the shore or in the water, they get hung up in it, and then oftentimes they actually get trapped. It gets wrapped around brush on the shore, and because they don't have teeth or claws or anything, they can't chew it off, so they're stuck there. They can't move. And then they die very slowly, or they get picked off by other predators.
Okay, so how would we just, like when you have fishing line, don't leave it out, right? Don't.
So ideally, you're going to take away your fishing line when you leave, whatever. Or the other thing is if you find fishing line along the shore of a lake where you're fishing or walking or something, just please pick it up and take it with you. The fishing line doesn't break down. It'll just stay there forever until somebody picks it up. So please just try to pick up your own fishing line and take any with you that you find.
Okay, so how is the Eastern Sierra Wildlife Care supported?
Well, we are supported mostly by the public. We don't get any government funding. It doesn't just automatically every year we have a certain amount of money. Every year we have to go out and raise money to pay for rent, for food, for electricity. So people who bring us animals sometimes make donations. We have a newsletter, we mail out. We have a fundraiser every October. And we're always looking for some help.
Yeah, definitely.
And everything keeps going up, as we all know. And same thing for the animals. Just feeding our education birds is about $3,000 a year.
Wow.
Just that alone. So
Yeah, you
it
definitely
costs
want to
money.
support them because they're really helping out our whole community.
Right. And we're always looking for volunteers too. So anytime if you're interested in our operation, or you in any way or want to make a donation, give us a call, 760-872-1487. And if you ever have any wildlife questions or problems, call us at the same number.
Awesome.